Okay, before we start this episode, guys, the three of us are starting the Front3 Podcast FPL League. The link is in the description. Go ahead and join right now to win hefty cash prizes or even a club jersey of your favorite club, which is signed by the three of us. So go ahead, join right now. Join. Top three players get prizes. Let's get on with the episode.
So, welcome back to episode 4 of the Front3 Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our previous episode with Yash Arora. This time, our discussion is going to be a little bit more FPL centered. Because we have the FPL guru of Instagram at the rate FPLTIPS __. Great having you on, man. How are you?
Thanks for inviting me, man. I'm really good. Looking forward to this podcast.
How does that feel, man? Like, you're the most, I'd say the most followed FPL page on Instagram, one of the most.
I'm not sure if it's one of the most, but in India, probably we are doing decent.
So coming to the Premier League and, all the transfers that happened this season. So they were probably some of the biggest transfers this season. So let's look at United, because Krishna is a United fan. So first we got we look at Sancho first, because Sancho is a proper confirmed transfer. So Krishna, was his price of Sancho? 9 million, right?
9.5 if I'm not wrong.
9.5 million.
9.5, yeah. So do you think from an FPL perspective, because he's a new player, obviously it'll be hard for him to adapt to the Premier League format and everything, but do you think we should consider getting him in our team?
Yeah, so first of all, for everyone watching, it's the FPL price is 9.5 million. So in case don't bash everyone in the comments, it's transfer fee was about 95 million. Yeah, but I don't think it's a very good start when you go ahead with a new player who's new to the league. They tend to take time settle in. Premier League is really, really physical. So it's not like the Bundesliga or the French league. You will take time to settle in. Unless you're a beast, you've played there before, or you have that level of experience, you settle in. So like a Mo Salah would settle in. But I still think it's better to avoid. And at 1 or 2 million more, you have Bruno Fernandes. So it's a no-brainer there.
Yeah. Do you think over time, do you think he'll get a position, like a starting position in the United squad? Because United have a lot of competition as well.
I think he would. 100 million for a bench warmer wouldn't be the thing. I think he'll start either on the he'll start where for the first few games he'll start on the left, and then he'll be switched to the right eventually.
Right. So my strategy with Sancho is that he is 9.5 million, Bruno's 12 million, and I'd wait for like 6 to 8 game weeks, see what he can do, because he does have the potential to be a good Bruno replacement, right? I'd say the thing is that Bruno's on pens, of course, but at 2.5 million cheaper, he could be a great option eventually.
No, absolutely. So coming to the other side of Manchester, City. So the biggest transfer as of now, Jack Grealish. So obviously, it wouldn't be the smartest decision to get a new player on your team, because they haven't. Of course, Grealish has been playing, but looking at City's team and the squad depth that they have, it'll be like a lot of competition for him to obviously get into the starting 11. And considering how much trouble all managers in FPL face choosing City players, it'll be a hard one.
Yeah, it will be. And initially he'll start because Foden is injured, De Bruyne is injured. So that puts in Gundogan as the number 8, and then Grealish probably as the left winger. But eventually, as game weeks goes by, and like there is UCL coming, and there's FA Cup, there's EFL, it is best to stay away from most City attackers at times. I rather invest in their defense, because it's a team that is providing you clean sheets, like a 15-16 clean sheets, definitely, and then some goal returns as well. And the value is as well 6 million tops when you're going for Diaz.
Yeah.
Although if Kevin De Bruyne is nailed, or maybe if Grealish is getting a lot of game time, yeah, they are obviously good buys. They're playing for the most attacking team in the league. They score on an average of 3 goals in most occasions. So yeah.
Moving on to the other transfers, Krishna, would you like to take over from here?
Yeah, so Sman's a Chelsea fan, so you want to talk about Lukaku a bit? What are your expectations?
Yeah, I am a Chelsea fan too. and
Oh.
120 million feels like a waste. To be fair and honest, I mean it could be an unpopular opinion. I do like Lukaku. There's no doubt he's a great striker.
Mm.
He'll do well, but
Mm.
you're buying a 120 million striker who's 28, and it doesn't seem like a Chelsea transfer after all. We've been known to have good signings overall over the period. And I mean, I expect a 40 goal season from him. And if that doesn't happen, I would consider it to not be a great signing. But I think he'll do well. We always missed a proper striker, like a full, strong, physical player there in the center. So he could do
A
well.
proper number 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, kind of like Haaland, but he just doesn't want to come to Chelsea for some reason.
So he was okay. He was fine. But Borussia asked for 150 million. And I think if Chelsea negotiated enough, or maybe with a player, we could have signed Haaland for 120, 125. And if you're already agreeing to pay Lukaku 115, I think a 20, like a 21, 22-year-old Haaland, if I'm not right, he's 22 or 23, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
No, but obviously the money perspective is there, that there is a lot of money behind the player, but it's a better investment, obviously, because if you invest in a younger player who will stay on your club for a longer time, that'll be much better for the club in the future as well, and it'll help them prosper, obviously.
and Chelsea have always been like a club like that who invest for the future. So it seems like an not it doesn't seem like a Chelsea signing after all, after watching Chelsea for so many seasons. But let's hope it looks like I hope that we don't switch to a false nine role now and put Havertz there, maybe Lukaku in a
Yeah.
false nine position. Otherwise, I think he'll do well. He
And
respectively
from-
do well. Yeah.
And from an FPL perspective, how much you think he'll be priced at?
I think 11 at least 11.5.
11. I was thinking he would be around the 10.5, maybe. I wouldn't say 10, but around 10.5 max.
He could, because initially when you see the pricings as well, it's either 10.5 or then Kane is there at 12. So
Yeah.
10.5 can be interesting bracket, because then you can put out a 7.5 plus Bruno out, put in Lukaku and maybe a Sancho in. So that fits well.
Yeah.
And what about
So-
Koundé? Because there was rumors for Koundé as well coming to Chelsea. So how do you think he fits in? Because he's also a pretty young defender, and we've seen him do well in La Liga. But what do you think? How will he be here?
I think when you talk about the player itself, I think he fits perfectly, because he'll be the Aspilicueta replacement in the back three, which Tuchel wants. So he'll perfectly fit there in terms of how he'll play and how good player he is. Although the deal is not really on at the moment, because Zuma has refused to go to a couple of particular clubs and in for exchange as well. So once the Zuma deal is on, I think then Koundé will come.
Yeah. So now coming to Liverpool. So, I mean, we had one major transfer, Konate, and, we've all seen the pace and obviously physicality and body that he has. But again, from a FPL perspective, obviously not the smartest decision to get a centre back in your team who will only get you points for clean sheet and maybe header or something, goal. So, I mean, he's priced are also at, I wouldn't say reasonable, because if you look at this season, obviously the prices are way higher than what they were the starting prices at last season, because they've increased them. Obviously, the players have also improved so much, but they've increased them quite a bit. And for Konate, only 5.5, I wouldn't consider him getting in my team, but maybe as a player who I would keep on the bench, maybe instead of I was actually planning to keep Ben White on the bench, but maybe Konate also. But it doesn't make sense to keep 5.5 on the bench as well.
5.5 on the bench doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're playing a back four, then a 4.5 million defender, maybe that's not the best ideal itself. But Konate is not going to start, according to me, in the initial games, first 3 games. So he's totally an off at the moment. Matip, on the other hand, is a decent buy. He's 5 million. Now, what happens is a lot of people are doubling up on Robertson and Trent. So here's something that you can use it to. If you want double clean sheets, I'm not sure that both of them will fire up all guns blazing right from the start. So the course of the first 6, 7, 8 weeks, I don't see both getting a lot of returns. The thing you could do is take Trent, downgrade Robertson to a Matip, who'll give you the clean sheet points, maybe not the goals, but he's still providing you a decent value at 5 million, and invest the remaining in your attack. That's a decent option if you want a double Liverpool defense.
So now coming to the main FPL, FPL bit of this video. So obviously there are few premium players and few players that we obviously and always have to have in your team. So someone for me who we should definitely have is Mohamed Salah, also because I'm a Liverpool fan, that Liverpool bias is there. But, considering that season that he had last time, 37 games, 22 goals, it was excellent. And Salah is that one player who consistently scores, and obviously he's a consistent starter for Liverpool. So he's someone who we should definitely have in our team.
For me, there's only one player that you should definitely have, and he's been throughout there for the last couple of years. That is Mohamed Salah. He's been scoring 200 plus points for almost like 3 or 4 years now, since he's been in the Premier League basically. So he's a guaranteed player who'll get you 200 to 50 points, and if you captain him more than often, you'll at least score 400 points out of him. And he has to be there. If he's 12, 13, 14 million, he has to be one of the first names on your team sheet.
Yeah.
Although
I mean,
Bruno is making a case for himself, but I think Salah just is essential.
So also disadvantage with Salah is that if you don't get him at the start, you'll have to lose two players and get that -4 or disadvantage of getting Salah back in your team. So I think it's smarter to invest in maybe a more expensive like Salah, and in your mid, obviously, who you can then later on degrade to someone else. And in your defense, if you look, you can maybe get Trent, who's the most expensive defender and who will get returns. And you can obviously downgrade him as well and get someone else. So a lot of shouts for Lamptey, but I mean, I think he's injured right now. I had him on my team earlier as well, so I think he would have been an excellent player for the start, considering the fixtures that they have.
So when you're buying defenders, there are certain categories. Obviously, there's a 4.5 million defender, there's a 5 million to 6 million defender, and there's a 6 and beyond. This is called the premium. So your premium should be a defender who's definitely getting you returns, attacking returns. There should be a definite number of returns, and then you should be investing in him. Otherwise, it's a waste. From 5 to 6, there should be some returns. They should not that regular, but he should be in those positions. And usually for a 4.5 defender, you look for players who are in attacking positions. So there was Ain Nouri who had a sort of a chance, but then he's getting benched and he's not starting. Lamptey is one of those defenders who's very high up the pitch. If he's fit, he's one of the best there. So a lot of people are going wide. He's not the ideal 4.5 defender you want, but again, since there are lack of options, you will have to eventually go for him because there's a clean sheet guarantee on that side, a higher clean sheet guarantee that side.
And talking about the prices of defenders, Luke Shaw is 5.5, right? 5.5.
5.5.
Do you think he's been a little undervalued this time? Underpriced?
Yeah, I love it if he's undervalued, and he's 51% owned in the game. And he's totally beast, man. He's doing well on set pieces. If you see the preseason game versus Everton, you can see the difference in the whip, the marking, and the players who are running inside the box in a particular manner. He was targeting Maguire a lot. So there is a huge improvement in set pieces. He'll be on set pieces. He'll take some corners as well. So I think there's going to be huge. And he'll be one of those players who will get you points. But there's a downside to that as well. He's 51% owned. And in case he blanks in game week 1, maybe 2, his price will drop drastically.
And considering United starting fixtures, Leeds home, Southampton away, Wolves away, Newcastle home. So obviously they have easy games, but something that I've noticed with United is that, they manage to win, but they aren't that good at keeping clean sheets. So I wouldn't trust Luke Shaw, but I mean, maybe invest in someone else. Obviously Trent Robertson high up there, but not too sure about Luke Shaw.
I do agree that I don't see a lot of I personally see them as a team that last season as well conceded a goal and then came back in almost most of the games. And Varane hasn't been like registered yet. I think he's still yet to do his medical.
Not yet.
Van Bissaka is still injured. He's not completely fit. Henderson is out as of now. So yeah, the clean sheet probably teams like Newcastle usually attack and score. Leeds, I do expect Leeds to score on that game. But the attacking output and potential he has at the moment is huge, immense. There is another thing that I want to address here. The number of chances he's creating is second highest in the league last season. Although there's a lot of volume of chances, the number of big chances are relatively less. So there are not a quality chances. There's a number of volume chances, but the quality of them are really low. So probably this season the quality will be high since Sancho is playing on his side. He'll be managing a bit as well. Also, he's 51% owned. So I don't think there should be a reason why you shouldn't. Because if he scores on day one and you don't have him, you are in the millions right away.
Yeah, rank is,
Yeah, you're in the millions
last time. Because this time I think you need to start better. Because last time, I mean, I don't know if this happened with you, but around my friend circle and everyone hyped up Oba so much that everyone had him in that game. And, I captained him for like the first 2-3 game weeks. And considering how Salah played, hat-trick against Leeds first game, most of the differential players, all these guys, managers, they captained and triple captain Salah. So obviously their start was much better. So they have to
Yeah,
focus on the start as well.
I usually say there's a lot of talk that you're going template and your team looks like the players who are most owned, but they're most owned because of a reason. They're not blindly most owned. So there are some players which might not be the best, but they are highly owned because of a reason. They're a good pick. That is why a lot of people are picking them. There's no harm to stick to a template team, get into the first million in the very first 5-6 game weeks, and then take a season off that.
Okay.
Right.
So now coming to another FPL part, so this is something that we should all like carefully look into because many of the players by English media obviously super hype. So who are the few people that you think should definitely avoid and maybe not keep in our team? But obviously there are good players like maybe let's say Phil Foden. He's an excellent player, but we never know in the Man City format and what goes through Pep's mind before he chooses the starting lineup. So you're not too sure from a FPL manager's perspective of who to get. So who are those few players for you who we shouldn't keep in our team at the start?
Uh, Foden, yes, obviously it applies to all City players. I mean, you're just at the mercy of Pep choosing his team at the end of the day. And so, yeah, there are certain City players you need to avoid. Foden is one of them as well. And now there's more competition with Grealish coming in. I don't think Madison is that great a pick. He is all of the performance. He does carry Leicester and everything, but his FPL output is not there. It's just not there. So he's one of those players. I usually don't like him. I think Aubameyang has been the player last season as well. He was decent, but again, the output you expect for his price was missing out. So
Definitely,
he's
yeah, I
one of,
agree.
yeah. So you probably I did have Aubameyang last season for game week 2 for captaincy. He did score then, even against Fulham on the opener. He scored a goal, I think.
Yeah. He got
But
7 points. Yeah.
yeah, but again, he hasn't been providing the value of his price. He's 10.5 or something this season as well.
Also
So
looking at strikers, I mean, do you think we should avoid a player like a premium striker like Harry Kane, considering I wouldn't say tough start, but obviously facing City first game.
not just City. When for everyone who's watching this video, if you're preparing your FPL team, do it for the first 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Two reasons. Your team ideally should last till a point where you want to play wildcard, and game week 7 is ideally the best time to play first wildcard. Uh, Secondly, usually don't just make your team for the first week. And Spurs have a bad run of fixtures from 1 to 6. They face a lot of big teams. They face Arsenal, Chelsea, City. So it's not a very easy run of fixtures. Uh, on to that, if he stays at Tottenham, then I think Son is a better value at 10 million. Obviously, he's cheaper. There is obviously some difference that Kane will provide through penalties, but I think overall it does get covered in those 2 millions because you're going to invest the exact same amount of money in some other player. So Smith Rowe will become Zaha, who takes pen for Crystal Palace. So it's almost an equal bargain.
Also, I was watching many FPL managers were avoiding Martinez because I don't know, I wouldn't say the fixtures are completely bad for Aston Villa, but at the same time, many of them are avoiding him because maybe the clean sheet factor or something.
No, when I said that you should go for a template team and not all the highly owned players, I did have Martinez in mind. There's a reason he's 5.5 million, so that's a very high price range. So you need a very good guarantee of a lot of clean sheets, at least 15, 16 clean sheets, and maybe bonus points. For example, Ederson is 6. He always gets the golden glove, but nobody takes him in the FPL community because he's very highly priced. And when you're looking at price per million, like points per million, he is not providing a good point per million. So that's the reason. If you go for Sanchez, who let's say provides you 12 clean sheet and Martinez getting you 14 with almost a similar amount of bonus point, Sanchez is way better.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So coming to this very key term by used by many FPL managers, differentials, and players who you think might have a breakthrough at the start of the season. So who are those few people who you think we maybe shouldn't have in our team, but maybe consider because of the potential that they have and talent that they carry?
So I mean, he's not a differential anymore, but I think Tony will break through. He's
Yeah, I mean, but
6.5.
he's got like around 30-40% ownership now.
Yeah, he's not a differential, obviously,
Oh.
but the only reason you should have him, and I think he'll break through, is he has a 51% goal involvement ratio when Brentford score. So it's more or less likely he'll get involved. Most of the differentials are in the midfield. I think Benrahma is one of them. He's top of my list. He has an excellent preseason, had a great end to the last season. I think he will start the West Ham team and he'll do good. He'll do good at the start. So he's someone I'm considering as well, but Benrahma is one of the first names on the list.
Right.
Moving ahead, I think Barnes will do decent. He'll get less minutes, but I think Barnes will also do decent. Smith Rowe is another name. I think I expect something from Smith Rowe as well.
What about someone like Buendia, who had a good season at Norwich and now he's at Aston Villa? So is he a good investment? Because I don't think he has a bad pricing.
He has a decent. This is very particular to me, but I think this is my opinion. But I think he'll be one of those guys who'll assist the assister, which happened with James Rodriguez as well last season. So he'll do the creativity. He'll put in the pass, which I've seen, but he'll not be the one who puts in the final pass. He will eventually at times, but I think he'll play it to someone like a Watkins and he'll play it to Ings or maybe El Ghazi to Ings or Bailey to Ings or a Watkins. I think that's going to be the case with Bundia. And as of now, he's still injured. He has a hip injury. So anyone who's watching this before game week 1, probably remove him out because he might not start.
Yeah.
So considering and looking at the ownership that Alisson has, 5.6%, do you suggest managers and other players keep him in their team? Because, obviously I have that Liverpool bias, but also looking at the starting fixtures, except maybe Chelsea, the rest of them are pretty doable for him to keep a clean sheet.
If I'm not wrong,
Alisson. What do you mean maybe Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, we will score obviously against them. There's no doubt in that. But Alisson is priced at 6 million. And if you put in 1.5 more, you're getting Trent, who's on free kicks, set pieces, scores goals, gives assists, who's literally at times playing the right winger for the team. And Alisson is just standing between the poles. I mean, and he's on bonus point as well. So there was this point where he scored 12 out of 12 bonus that were available last season.
And there's also a chance that he scores a goal because you never know.
It's absolutely a no-brainer to put in 1.5 million there and go for Trent.
No, definitely. Also, looking at Sanchez, considering, I would say, I don't know, his ownership probably is 22.9. I think maybe the highest for a keeper. And the fixture that he has as well is, I think, do you think he'll keep clean sheets? Because obviously Brighton are a team that they're not known for keeping clean sheets, but considering the back four that he has, and do you think with the dismissal of Ben White, do you think it's still wise for managers to keep Sanchez in the team?
So Brighton are majority. It doesn't matter if Ben White isn't there or if you take out Dunk, they'll still. They had a very low XG considered last season, which is why I'm considering him. But when I watched the preseason game personally, I am not at the start. Although a lot of managers will go for him, and he's a decent buy. Personally, I'm not sure. I'm looking between Sanchez and Backman. I think if I'm advising someone to choose, you should choose between the two. 4.5 million keepers, choose it between the two. Watford is defensively decent as well at home. So I think in the first 6 game weeks, Backman might outscore him. But if you're not willing to take the risk, then Sanchez is decent. And this is a personal observation that I think that maybe Brighton did look very weak at the back in the last 2 preseason games.
No, but also, I mean, I definitely agree with you. But there's another point and another factor that all managers should definitely keep in mind before making their team. And that's something that I believe in. It's something that I call the target team. So before every season, there's this team that I always look at and always, focus on that team. So, Everton have great fixtures, Arsenal have great fixtures. So who's that team and who are those few players that you have from that particular team in your FPL team, and who do you think that team would be?
So there are 2 types of target teams. I mean, just to clarify for people, there are obviously players you want to have in your team, and teams against you want to captain again. So Everton do have a good run of fixtures. If DCL was fit, I would go for him. Presumably he's not fit. He has a toe injury, so that's out of thing. Deeney is a decent option if you want to go for attacking returns. He's very high up the pitch in the preseason games. He was inside the box much more than last season, so that's something to look out for. I think Bruno, a lot of people are saying Bruno and United don't have decent enough fixtures. I think Bruno is one of the best captain options in game week 1 and 4. So he's on my list as well. Salah is there for sure. And apart from that, I'm looking at Sun for Game Week 3 and 4 particularly, and maybe just the Aston Villa assets for Game Week 1 to 3. Apart from
Yeah.
that, there's nothing major there. Yeah.
And while talking about Aston Villa, I mean, they've had like really good transfers, but one I'd like to highlight is Ings to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
So number one, like, would you recommend having him in your team? And number two, does that make Watkins a much less attractive option?
I would recommend you going with things. He did score in today's preseason as well,
Hmm.
so he's doing
Yeah.
decent. Yeah, and it will affect Watkins. They are trying to play a 4-4-2 diamond, which will keep Watkins still up top, but he's known to drift wide when there's nobody in that area. And he turns out to be very creative when he's playing on the left, but not very goal threatening at the same time. So it's more likely that if he's drifting out wide, Ings will get the goals and Watkins might get the assist. So if there's a choice, and El Ghazi, especially if El Ghazi is not playing, I think Ings is on penalties as well. So for the 0.5 extra, I think Ings is better.
Also,
That's
talking
excellent. But another team, yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was just saying, talking about the midfield, because we've talked about attack and defense a lot, but in the midfield, is it because I'm very new to FPL. This is the first season I'm playing FPL, honestly. And so is it a good idea to invest in defensive midfielders like Kante or Fabinho or maybe even Souček, who've played well, but is it a good idea to invest in them?
Absolutely not, because you don't get points for that. So Souček, yes, he was an exception because he's a center defensive midfielder. He's really running up and down, and he can score anytime. So he's just an exception. He's an irregularity when you look at that. We look at all of the players, but players like Klitsch, Kante, NDD, uh, McTominay, all these players are center defensive midfielders. They don't have a chance to score, so you probably avoid them.
Okay.
No,
I just
also, I mean, go
Yeah, I
ahead,
just
go
add
ahead.
one thing here for everyone watching. If you guys are into stats, so when you're looking at players, do look at how many penalty area touches do these players have, and how many shots inside the box do these players have. So it's not something that is not available on basic football apps. So in case you want to select a team, these are very two good parameters which will indicate that how much likely a player is to score. So if Kante has one touch in the box and Werner has 20, it's very likely that Werner scores and Kante doesn't. So that's a good
Hmm.
parameter when you're comparing two players and picking one out of them.
So, considering the run that Leeds had last season, I mean, also looking at the starting few game matches that Leeds has, do you think it would be a wise decision to invest in maybe Bamford or someone like Raphinha to get in your team?
Yeah, I mean, Raphinha, talking about him, he's 6.5 and he looks like the bargain out of all players. He's the
Yeah,
most
definitely.
underpriced player at the moment, even before Shaw, because he had a great season and he has the potential to like score 200 points. So yeah, Raphinha looks like the buy. When you look at the preseason games, although it looks like Bamford is turned out to be a complete beast. He's scoring like from everywhere, and it's a tough call. Initially, if you're building a team, I would say don't just go for Bamford right away because he's expensive. So
Hmm.
in case he just starts performing a lot, if you have someone like a Watkins or Ings, you can switch them. So most likely, I think people watching this podcast will go for Ings after how we talked about him. So post game week 3, you can switch. Post game week 4, when Leeds play Liverpool, after that you can switch Ings to Bamford, which is a decent transfer out, and then you can see. If not, there's Rodrigo as well, who's starting, who will play in the cam role, and he's 6.5. He's a forward. He's cheaper than Bamford, so that could be an alternative as well. But out of the lot, Rafinha definitely, and he's a set and forget. So you can keep because he's just so undervalued at the moment. He's 6.5. And Leeds aren't a team that will sit back to anybody. They will still attack. They will still score
Yeah.
goals. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with you. But now, just coming to an end to this segment, now we had a great time just going over the different aspects of FPL, and for any beginners, they can just look into this and have a different perspective, and they can make their teams according to this. So I would just like to end this segment signing off, guys.